It's been a long season. It's been a challenging season. I think from our perspective, we're definitely looking forward to getting back here next year, having a solid preseason that'll consist of the team going back to Costa Rica and the preseason tournament in Portland, and that's getting back to where we were several years ago before the development of the stadium expansion and also the development of the training facility. So for us, we're looking forward to one, getting, even though the group is still working right now, and Gio and I have just returned from pretty much spending 48 hours in Europe and getting back to Portland. But the focus is on preparing the group for next year, getting set for next year, and starting the year where there's a level of rhythm, where there's home and away games and dealing with the challenges that we see in front of us and not with the unknown. So we will open it up to questions. We were on vacation, actually. It was just a really quick one. 48 hours, it was just, we thought the weather was worth traveling for. So just in Europe, just a very quick trip. Obviously exhausted, got back late last night. But, for us, I think Merritt gave the rundown of what we're looking to add and the positions and the elements. So for us, it was focusing on one specific player where there were meetings and meetings with the player, meetings with agents and club, and just seeing if we could come to a resolution. And we're optimistic that one will pencil out, but still got a lot of work in front of us. With the positional needs, so is it essentially what Merritt laid out, or is there any more information on that you can give us? No, Merritt's actually applied for one of those positions. He thinks he's capable, but I think the positions that Merritt laid out, we have a young right back that there's the formality of still completing some of the paperwork and the transfer agreement, but by and large that deal is done. Looking to add a central defender, a midfielder, a winger, and a forward. And a lot of that looking to add 2 to 3 players to compete for starting spots. And with the young right back, the expectation is, and Gio, you can interrupt me at any time, but that Moreira continues to grow in this league, and that's a player that will remain with us for at least another 6 months. And we're looking at a solution to keep him here for several more years. So I would say several of the positions are key players that we are trying to bring in to help the starting group.
Specifically with Diego Valeri and Brian Fernandez, do you think that they'll be back next season?
I would say Brian's under contract, and the plans are that he is going through. He's been cleared for workouts, and he's not training with the team, but he is back in Portland, and he is at the training facility. We are currently following the direction of and he is following the direction and the training program of the SABH policy. So outside of that, we're not allowed to comment. So with that one, all I would say is that we're hopeful that everything gets back on track and his contract is with the club. With Diego Valeri, I think you've read or seen a lot about that in the media relative to where we're at. And without going into too much detail, I think it's been made very, very clear that he's a player that the club respects and loves in every capacity. He's somebody that we acknowledge that has been instrumental in the club's success and is a talented player. On the other side, I would say it's got to be what both parties want. So I don't hold all the information to make that determination.
And there's the desire to try to make sure that he stays. That's why we have ongoing conversations, and we'll see. But these talks and this all the effort to try to get to that place.
And then just, I wonder, with Brian going into the program, with the contract information on Valeri coming out, with the protests going on at the stadium, with all those sort of outside distractions, looking back, do you feel like that impacted the team on the field this year?
Yes. The honest answer is, but there's always going to be something. In sports, you're always managing something. But generally, you try to manage what you know is going to happen rather than what you can't see. And testament to Gio and the staff, I think the resolve that they showed and the ability to deal with bad news at times and still turn up at the training facility and go through the work and do the job that they did is remarkable. So if anything, it's been a challenging year. I think we know that. I think there's a level of exhaustion that hit everybody. And, also for the players. I think it speaks volumes about their ability to tolerate it, that the culture of the club will always be the most important thing, that we need to solve things the right way and do the right things at all times, and I think that came through.
And I was going to say the same thing in regards to the players, because what they handled during the year and being able to arrive to the final stretch or to the last game, still with a great belief that we can go far, and for everybody to still be united. I think it shows a lot from our players, and that's why I was extremely, I said many times, I was extremely proud in how the guys still continue to compete after a very difficult year.
Can you speak to the goalkeeper depth? I know Steve Clark mentioned he's out of contract, and Jeff's here. Just talk about where you see that, because there are a couple younger guys there. How are you going to address that? How do you feel about that position?
We're hopeful that Steve Clark will be back. We have his rights within MLS, and that he is a player that there will be a bona fide offer made to, and it's a player that I'm in constant contact with the agent, and that we are hopeful that Steve is back for next year. And again, he's part of the equation, we're part of the equation. We hope that we solve our part and make sure that he feels respected and make sure that he knows that this is a club that he has to continue with. And I think when we look at Steve and the moment that we brought him in, it was when there weren't possibly too many options for Steve. And credit to Gio and Memo in getting the most out of Steve and Steve's preparation and professionalism. He was able to perform. Jeff will be coming back from surgery. We expect him to be at full participation mid-February.
Yes. And
Alias, who is another promising young goalkeeper, needs a full pre-season.
So, and we feel that in that particular area very strong. I don't think that there's that many teams in MLS that can say that they have these type of goalkeepers competing at that position, and we feel pretty strong about it. If everything finished the way we believe that it's going to end up, with having those three players being part of it, I can tell you that we feel pretty confident in every goalkeeper that we have.
So hoping you could reflect on the contributions of Sebastian Blanco this year, and as a guy who has been one of the consistent performers for the last couple of years, where he sort of stands within the team.
That's what I wanted to say. So I'm gonna let you say it, but we have good news in regards to Blanco.
So Blanco, you've read about it. So it's not new news. It's just official. We've extended Blanco's contract, so it's for multiple years. And I think, from the club standpoint, we believe that his contribution will continue to grow, that it's important to tie him up for many more years. And I think it's important from both the club standpoint, the locker room, but also the on-field. And this year, on many different metrics, Blanco's now one of the top 10 performers holistically as an attacking midfielder in the league, and that class continues to grow, and the quality in that position continues to grow, and it's good to see Blanco being recognized, at least internally within MLS, for his growth and the quality that he brings.
There's no question. I mean, he's a very valuable player, an important component of our team in so many different ways, inside the field, outside the field. What he's able to give us, the quality that he brings, the competitive aspect of, he's a winner. There's so many, things that make him be, this important player for us. And the fact that he can play wide as a number 10, and even sometimes when we play a different system, he's very tactically savvy. So he gives us flexibility. That's also a very important component of Seba, and he's always very important for us.
Looking forward to next year, where do you think the team should be this time next season?
This time next season, hopefully in the final of the conference. That's what we hope for. That's what we wanted to this year as well. I think fresh. I think last year when we arrived at this stage, even longer, because I think we're talking about November in this period of time, we felt very fresh. We felt like the season still was early, and this year, everything that we had to go through, even though the group was still united, I think there was a lot that we had to handle, and I saw a little bit more tired, the group, at this time because, as I said, a lot of travel, games, consecutive matches, injuries. So a lot of things. So hopefully next year, with a more reasonable schedule, we can arrive to this stage, being fresh, being stronger, to be able to go through it. This new system of MLS in the playoff makes you understand that you have to be very sharp because in one game your season can finish. So you have to make sure that you're your best at every game right away. And we believe that with the right mentality, which we had a lot of it this year, but even increasing that a little bit more and from the beginning sticking with one way and maybe with a more balanced schedule, have a little bit more continuity with some players, then for sure I believe that it could be a stronger season.
Gio, this season's schedule was obviously so different because you started with so many games on the road. Do you feel like that sort of set you up to start behind some of the other clubs and then just couldn't quite catch up? Or how do you feel like the season impact or the schedule and the away games impacted it?
Yeah, so we knew it was going to be a tough season from the beginning, having those 12 matches away. But not only that, I think the fact that we had to be in preseason long before, it took us about almost a month, if not a little more, that we were away. So if you put that into consideration as well, we knew it was going to be tough from the beginning. I think what I will say is that everything that we encounter after, because then at the end the group was able to bounce back and we got some very good results away. Once we start, putting things in a more united front, then we realized that there were other challenges that we found when we came back home. And we had to deal with a schedule that that was very made in consecutive matches, games. I will say one that we had to go to Montreal in between two home games, go back to New York. So all that I think became very difficult on the players, and at the end with the injuries, we had to use a lot of players constantly. And I believe that we arrive at this stage, a bit tired, even though still united, still with the belief, because I can tell you, the guys, they want to win, everyone on the locker room. So even though the guys in some way maybe could have been a little tired, they still gave everything to try to make it all away. But hopefully now with the schedule the way we believe it's going to be next year, I think it will be much better for us to have continuity, to make sure that we are fresh. Now having a preseason that we can have more time here, even though we're going to go to Costa Rica, which is a good thing. But coming back and redoing again the tournament that usually is organized here, I think there's a lot more possibilities to succeed and arrive at this particular stage a lot fresher.
Obviously the schedule, the compacted schedule, the injuries were a huge factor, but what do you learn from the home form this year? Because like you said, you were obviously in a decent point when you came back from the road.
Yes, I think first of all, there were many things that we can learn. I think not only me, I think the players and everybody involved, and I think is the fact that it doesn't guarantee you just to be home. And sometimes when you have to play two consecutive at home, you don't build up that moment in which you can go a little bit away, rebuild, and come back to your home. It was like you have a performance. If it didn't go well, you have to play the next in 3 days. And that's a good thing because you want to get the result that you wanted. But if it doesn't go your way, then you don't have a little escape to come back and then play. If you have a normal schedule that can be a little bit more balanced, I would have believed that it would have been healthier for us. And I think we went through a lot, during the time that we were here as well, between injuries and other things that we had to handle that I think made it a little more difficult. Not as an excuse, because I think playing at home, we should be strong. We want to have a better record. I'm not happy about the record at home. I can be saying, yeah, but then it was one of the best records away. Thank God that happened, because maybe that balanced out for us to make the playoff. It was not guaranteed for us to win every game at home, but definitely we want to be a team that wins constantly at home, and that's one thing that we hope to do next year.
I think it was the evolution of the season. The season didn't go well at the start because of various challenges, and then, through the resolve of everyone and the flexibility and the methodology put behind the team on the road, we started to get results. But we got results in a way that you can't get results at home and still entertain and still be a productive, forceful team and a dominant team. So then there was another evolution when we came home, and we had adjusted to playing 12 games on the road. The team was playing a certain way, and it on the road it was about getting results at that stage of the year. We knew that we had to get to X number of points by the end of the season with games on the road, with the thought of getting home. And then we opened the stadium and we played against an LAFC team that was on fire at that stage. And later we showed that that's a team that we can match up with and play well against, and actually we beat in LA. But there was just all these ebbs and flows to the season. And once you came home, and then there were the challenges relative to the excitement in the stadium and the players not fully feeling it, and the stadium being flat. I think that then affects the players. It affects everybody. So all the numerous challenges that we talk about with the excitement of coming home, and then with dealing with it once we got home and trying to manage that with a locker room that's culturally very, very diverse, and getting them to understand that this is not normal and this is going to change, and they're fans that love you and we're going to go forward. There's all these different parts to it. And I think where we came out to at the end of the year was the style that we were playing at home. Drawing with Orlando 1-1 after we had 20 shots and they had 2. That's a disservice in football, and it's unjust. And that's a game that actually we played well and should have won, but the result didn't go our way. And we started to put pressure on ourselves.
And that was the thing. And it's good that you bring it up, because some of our best games were those games that we play at home. I think when we play New England Revolution, we played some of our best soccer. Against Orlando, against DC United, it was some of our best soccer in regards to what we did offensively against a very good team. But at the end, it needs to relate to results. It needs to relate to goals. And that transition from playing away and coming to home, it took a little time for us to be a better team. But we believe that was the way to play at home. We believe that was the way that we could be more entertaining, the way that, the type of real team that we want to be. And that's what we're going to continue to, develop for next year.
And then talking about the players that you guys might bring in the offseason, obviously with the information that's out in the media about the negotiations with Diego, it sounds like you guys want to potentially open up a designated player spot. Is that a spot that you are anticipating going after in the offseason?
I would say it's yes, but there's no guarantees we're going to solve that. It's a marketplace that we have a set budget that would put us in the DP category. But again, it's got to be the right type of player. And the DP slot will either be used on the forward position or on the winger position. But what we need is flexibility within the budget to be able to make the moves necessary short-term and long-term to be successful. And what we don't want to do is tie up 3 DP slots and find ourselves in a marketplace that we can't afford, or we can't fit in the winger within the cap that we have, or the forward within the cap that we have. And a max TAM player still has a tremendous cap hit. So just having the flexibility through contracts to either make a player a DP or a TAM level player gives us the ability, or the organization the ability, just to basically move the roster pieces accordingly to put out the best squad possible. And there's also an option to purchase Paredes, and we're trying to structure that so he's not going to be a young DP, that he can fit into a category. So there's all these moves within the roster, and we need flexibility. And within a cap structure, when you start to look at what a DP charge is versus a TAM charge, you do need that flexibility.
And then just to clarify, you were talking about the goalkeepers earlier. Do you anticipate only having 3 goalkeepers because you had 4 this year, and where does Kendall fit into that?
So what I would say is that with the CBA that we're not allowed to talk about, we're waiting to see what is the size of the roster, what is the cap. So there's some decisions that we need to make immediately and some that we will delay. But I think in due time there will be meetings with every single player, and we'll start to announce certain decisions and roster moves when the time is appropriate.